Hi, everybody. I'm Lovejoy Boteler, and I have a book titled Crooked Snake: The Life and Crimes of Albert Lepard, published by University Press of Mississippi. Before I get started with my reading, I wanted to give a shout out to two organizations, the Lower Delta Partnership in Rolling Fork and the Flowood Rotary Club. Both of those events we had to cancel because of the current crisis. Hopefully I'll be able to go back in the future. But I want to read chapter 1 of Crooked Snake. So let me go ahead and get started. Chapter 1, Jackson. I don't know how many people were kidnapped in Mississippi in 1968, but I was one of them. I was taken from my family farm that June by two escaped convicts from Parchman Penitentiary, John Parker, convicted of armed robbery, and Albert Lepard, sentenced to life for murder. I was sure I would die. Despite the terror of that event, I survived. My life has moved far beyond the bean field where it happened. I finished college, clerked for the legislature, worked on the river, was a rodeo hand in Colorado, had a family, built houses, taught school, and made music and furniture. But I've told this story at least once a year to most anyone who would listen. My wife, who has heard the account 100 times, said I must write it down. But I wasn't so sure. This particular slice of history ought to be told to wide-eyed kids around a fire pit on a moonlit night, or to folks getting tipsy at a cocktail party before dusk. Being kidnapped was quite an oddity. In 1963, when I was 13, Frank Sinatra Jr. had been kidnapped for 2 days. I had a vague memory of that news because my parents talked about it around the dinner table. Patty Hearst was taken in 1974 by members of the Symbionese Liberation Army and would not be found for a year and a half. After her ordeal, the world became familiar with Stockholm Syndrome, a condition that causes hostages to develop a psychological alliance with their captors as a survival strategy. They were both 19 at the time of their kidnapping. Images of my abductors had slipped in and out of my thoughts for a long time in mean snippets of memory. Their ominous approach on our field road, the tense encounter, a revolver in my ribs, fear, commotion. Deep in the bottom drawer of an old walnut secretary in the living room was the kidnapped scrapbook my mother had made for me after I was abducted. She had been greatly disquieted by the whole affair. I tunneled under mounds of paper to exhume the musty relic. It contained photographs and news articles from the Jackson Clarion Ledger and the Memphis Commercial Appeal with a list of the convicts' crimes. Their defiant mugshots stared from the newsprint. Lepard's menacing, don't give a damn gaze was etched in my psyche and gave me a jolt. A grainy black and white photo of me holding my hands up as the detective examined my fingerprints shot me back to the scene of the crime. I was 18 years old. On the last page of the album was a letter from the penitentiary addressed to my father, a member of the state legislature, thanking him for the part I played in the capture of the convicts. It read, August 5th, 1968, Honorable E.L. Boteler, Riverdale Farms, Route 3, Grenada, Mississippi. Dear Sir, enclosed is application for reward in the case of Albert Lee Lepard and John Parker. Please have your son, Wallace Lovejoy Boteler, sign before a notary public and return to us. Upon receipt, we will forward it to the executive department with our request for payment. We would like to extend our compliments to your son on the manner in which he handles such a delicate situation. Sincerely, B.C. Ruth, Classification Officer. Parchman sent me a reward of $50, a remarkable sum for a Mississippi farm boy in 1968. I closed my eyes and let the memory of that uncommon time envelop me. The red-haired killer, hot wind through the truck, my brother's rifle, my pistol, their pistol, the long ride. I snapped out of it, focused on the present. I needed to find one more vital artifact, the pair of 1922 piece silver dollars Lepard left me. My mother had carefully glued the coins on a rectangle of red felt and put them in a simple black frame. I rummaged around the house most of the morning, but to no avail. Frustrated and about to abandon the search, I reached up and felt around the top edge of a tall hutch. There they were, hidden away years ago for safekeeping, so secure they were almost lost. The coins were tarnished tokens with a worth to me far beyond their face value. Decades earlier, Lepard held these coins in his hand, and for a strange reason known only to him, left them in the pocket of our farm truck for me to find. I've shown them to a few people, not many. The Clarion Ledger stated that Lepard hailed from Newport, a wild and rugged place in central Mississippi. A coffee-stained road map pinpointed Newport as a mere dot 70 miles northeast of Jackson. I debated the wisdom of going there, but the spark had been struck. Now was the time to unearth the life of this felon from my past. I fervently hoped to find other people who were, like me, his victims, tied up and robbed, abducted, or worse, and I would try to meet his family. The next morning, armed with the two silver dollars in my pocket, I hugged my wife, told her not to worry that I would be home for supper. As she later said, I just took off. I departed for Newport with little fanfare, leaving the polite society of Jackson, aiming for a remote hamlet in the rough heart of Mississippi where people most likely wouldn't take kindly to nosy strangers. If you think you might enjoy reading a book like this, it's kind of a wild story, please pick up Crooked Snake, Lemuria bookstore right here in Jackson. They'll bring it out to the curb for you. Or at your local independent bookstore. Or better, certainly you can go to Amazon. And don't forget, University Press of Mississippi. You can order it straight from their website. Thank you so much, and everyone stay safe.